It's the start of another week. You're watching The Pulse here on the JoyNews channel, and with just hours to that deadline given to individual bondholders to sign onto the controversial domestic debt exchange program, the finance minister has been speaking, indicating that he cannot exempt individual pension bondholders from the scheme. We're keeping our eyes on that, plus giving you a reaction of the minister.
We do have an economic crisis, and I think if people truly want the elongated bonds, that's easier to do. It's less burden on us.
But don't forget that a lot is unfolding. We have details as the minister is appealing to this individual bondholders. So today besieged his outfit and earlier petitioned his office. But the finance minister is asking them to accept the 15% coupon rate with a 5-year maturity. Will engage the bondholders who have rejected the minister's proposal and threatened continuous picketing.
And our members have a plan that until the exemption is granted, we will keep on coming here every day between 10 and 11.
Don't forget that we're also taking a look at developments in the Upper East region, where there's a lot of tension there. The regional minister is calling for peace as he's demanding for an immediate halt in the firing of arms within the Bawku municipality. We will bring you details of that meeting with the Regional Security Council and traditional authorities as they deliberate on ways to resolve these recent disturbances, which led to the death of at least 8 persons, as we witnessed just last week.
Please, 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 let all the guns in Bawku be silenced.
Explore the opportunities and how close we are to securing peace within Bawku. But here in Accra as well, we're talking about that situation. Neglected Accra-Tema motorway, which is now a debt trap, as potholes and non-functional street lights expose motorists to danger. We'll hear from some of the commuters who have been speaking to JoyNews.
They are not doing the maintenance. I'm passing here every day. The potholes and the things is very bad. So we are begging the president so that they fix the road for we. We are suffering in this motorway.
I'm blessed. Sogah. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, affordable, safe sanitation. Don't forget that we're also on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. Welcome to The Pulse. We'll be back with details shortly. And we're starting off by talking about the debt exchange program this afternoon. Despite pressure from individual bondholders on government to exempt them from the controversial domestic debt exchange program, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is indicating this afternoon that government cannot meet their demands. Ken Ofori-Atta, who was addressing leadership of the individual pension bondholders who picketed the ministry earlier today, appealed to the pensioners to accept the current 15% coupon rate. We'll hear from him shortly, but first, my colleague James Kwesi has been engaging some of the protesters.
As you can see behind me, these are some of the pension bondholders who have gathered here. They are in their tents, about 50 to 60 of them gathered here this morning. The intention is to picket here at the Ministry of Finance to register their displeasure over their inclusion in the domestic debt exchange program. When I interacted with some of them earlier, they indicated to me that what they want right now is that government should officially declare that they, the independent bondholders, are not part of the domestic debt exchange program. They want total exemption. If you look at some of the placards they are carrying this morning, the message is that pensioners have no alternative source of income. Others are saying that don't turn pensioners into destitute. Our medical care is dependent on our coupons. With a lot more information they are giving the Ministry of Information now. We don't want to be a burden on society. We want to live off our bonds. And so let's interact with some of them here.
I'm joining my colleagues to say that you should exempt us from this domestic bond exchange program, because we have paid our due to society. And we bought the bonds on trust. Most of us from the banks who were convinced that they are safe. They use the word risk-free, that the bonds are risk-free. So I believe everything, and I invested some of my retirement benefits in it with the hope that every time I get a coupon, it will support my medical bills. Because I tell you, you can just sleep and wake up one day and you have an ache somewhere, a pain somewhere. And so it's just to keep me going and make sure that I live a life of dignity after my 33 years of hard work. So you can't just wake up one day without negotiation, without calling us and explaining anything, and then we hear an announcement after you have said that independent bondholders are exempt. Then just before Christmas, you said they are part of it. We are not just anyone. We are the senior citizens of this nation. We need that respect. We need to be treated with dignity, respect. In fact, we want our money. We don't want to be part of this program. If he can't even pay the coupons, he should give everybody their money. Let us live our lives. Do you understand me? Because I don't have anyone to take care of me.
The last communication from the Ministry of Finance is that you persons who are over 59 years would be given 15% coupon rate and 5 years maturity rate.
You can't take my money and decide how you are going to give it back to me. It's my money. We are not going to be part of this. There are several other Ghanaians. They should find a better way of implementing this domestic debt thing. You can't just zero in on bondholders and say they are the ones paying the debt of Ghana. Why? Especially pensioners. Why? What have you done? Everybody abroad I know in high position, I told this, they thought it was a big joke. Like, how could they do that? It's a disgrace. They better revisit this issue and handle it well. If every Ghanaian is going to contribute 10 cedis, 20 cedis, or 100 cedis, I don't mind. But you can't hoodwink our bonds. After several years of hard work, people may have spent their money doing something, but I decided to invest it because the bank convinced me that it was safe. If I knew this was going to happen, I would have invested. Please. Okay.
Right. So that is one of our mothers here. There's another mother seated by her, all cladded in red. What exactly do you expect the Ministry of Finance to be telling you this morning as you are here?
That we are totally exempted from this animal called domestic debt exchange program. I invested my money because that is what I'm going to live on. I don't have anybody. As I sit, I'm not well, but I have to come and sit here, breathless, trying to breathe. And you've taken my money. I mean, this is unacceptable. As my sister said, they did not even engage us. My money that you have even used to do your foolishness, and you want us to pay. You don't want to sacrifice, and you don't get anybody else but pensioners. Are you human? Are you normal? What is it? Please tell them they should exempt us totally. We are the last people they should approach. We respect ourselves, so that the words that will come out from our mouths will not be nice.
How long do you intend to stay here?
Every day. We will come here and sit here every day till they tell us something.
Okay. So that is the message, that they would be coming here almost every day until the Ministry of Finance listen to them. I'm trying to catch up with Dr. Edouard Anientwi, but if you can see, this is their definition or their description to the abbreviation DDEP. Don't disturb earnings of pensioners. This is how the description they have given to the DDEP. I have here Dr. Edouard Anientwi. Doc, just a minute. Just a minute. We want to know how long you intend to do this.
We have said we will continue until we get our petition accepted. Yes. Every day 1 hour here. Every day 1 hour here. We will behave as if we are coming to work. 1 hour. There we go. 1 hour. There we go. 1 hour. There we go. Every day until we get the exemption.
We understand the minister wants to see you.
Yes, we are going.
So you are getting audience from Keno Foriata?
Yes, I have been told they want to see us. So
what's your expectation?
All that we expect is a clear statement that you have been exempted. If that comes, we will close and go home. Tomorrow we won't come.
Well, the pensioners got the attention of the Finance Minister, Keno Foriata. He, however, said government simply cannot meet their demands.
No, we have therefore, in this period, engaged the banks and financial institutions. And I think we've come a long way, in which we expect a full tendering tomorrow when the tender closes. Then we also had engagements of individual bondholders, including yourselves. And Dr. Duanani really represented you guys extremely well, because we were at a 0% interest, in which it was a 12-year, 15-year bond, okay? So he articulated your specific issues, and we reduced it from 12, 15 years to 5 years, okay, so that accommodating that. Even though we know that over a third of you have bonds that are beyond the 5 years, as we sit today, 12 years and up. So we brought it to the 5 years, okay? Then we looked at it and said, look, on average, to be honest with everybody, and everybody knowing the numbers, the return on your bonds is about 18.5% on average, okay? So looking at all of the categories, we say, well, these are retirees. Let's include those 59 who will be 60 this year and give them 15%. So the fight that we are presumably fighting here is the difference between 15 and 18.5%. The cost of that may be that we may not get an IMF clearance. And then your issues of inflation, capacity to pay, takes on a different hue. So my challenge really, and I spoke to Doc a bit about it, is that, look, what you have done is incredible and is great. Now we're at a point where, what is the Dinkra symbol? Boaminamen Boao. Or else the nation will come to a halt. So we've now brought you from 0 to 15, really 3.5 basis points between what you would normally get to that, and also move the whole maturity period from the 12 that we had prescribed at the beginning to 5, knowing very well that at least a third of you have maturities way beyond even the 12. Okay, so at this juncture, looking at what we have been able to do, being really very clear on where we are as a nation and what part of the contribution you want to. So I want at least one of you to tell me exactly what it is that is so egregious.
We know that you talk about moving from 0 to 15, but you see, none of us contracted bonds at 0%. So it's hard for us to even make a comparison from 0. For us, we look at it from what terms we accepted when we took our bonds that were issued. And if we are haggling over 3%, that should tell you how dire our situation is and how vulnerable we are. If 3% means so much to us, so that's what we want you to look at. We are asking for you to totally exempt us from this program. We are not that many, you know. You know the total value. You do know that a third of us or so go beyond 5%. But those 5 years. But you know, when people were buying bonds, they saw the terms of the bonds. And they had objectives when they bought bonds. Their objectives are that they are looking for maturities to match certain plans in their lives. And that is why people picked bonds that they picked at the time that they did. So even though it's a good thing that you may be wanting to bring some people whose bonds mature way beyond 2028 to that point, bringing it forward to 2028 or so, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing that you are doing for them, because they have their objectives and they know why they picked the bonds that they picked. But please, we depend on our coupons. We've done all the math. We know what to expect. We know how to add that to whatever other income we get, either from Social Security or whatever. We've planned our lives around these bonds. Some people, when they do the computation, they tell you that what they are going to be getting per month or so is just like 1,000 cedis or 2,000 cedis or something, but they have planned their lifestyles around it. So please, total exemption is what we ask. We are not many. Please look at us and do this for us. We are vulnerable. We don't want to be a burden on you, on the country, or on our children. We want to be a burden on ourselves. And so we planned our lives in such a way that we will be a burden on ourselves. So please, we know that you will give us some good hearing and consideration. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for this. You know, the challenge that we have is that we have an economic crisis. We do have an economic crisis. And I think if people truly want the elongated bonds, that's easier to do. It's less burden on us. We thought, you know, really, and that was one of the huge things that Dr. Edward Anani and co were saying, that look, this 12 years is too long, I'll be dead by then. And so we found it, you know, necessary to find a way to bring it to 5 years. The question that we have is that if we do not get our economy stable, you know, your 18 or 40% or whatever would mean nothing. So it is crucial that we get this economy stable. It is crucial that we ensure that our foreign exchange issues are resolved so that there is integrity in whatever numbers we put here. And the question that I'm saying is Buame Namensumembuao, because I need to make sure that the economy is stable.
Right to it. Dr. Edu Anani Entry is convener of the pensioner bondholders, is joining us in studio. Good afternoon. Well, not a good afternoon. So let's start off from where the finance minister left off. He's saying that hand go, hand come. I mean, as the cliche is, will you accept that term that the finance minister is giving you?
Time and time that we have done what we need to do for this society. A time has come that the society should also reciprocate our whatever toils we have. We just are saying that treat the vulnerable ones, people who are on pension, treat them differently. Right. They need even the government support. Under normal circumstances, we should be relying on government for our survival. Elsewhere, people are surviving by the graciousness of their governments. I keep on saying, if you are my cousin who turned 60 recently in the UK has gone for a train and bus pass. You know, you pay just about £1 or so to get a bus pass. You ride in trains and buses free. We don't have that in Ghana. So elsewhere, people are taking specific policies, undertaking specific policies to help the vulnerable ones that are the retirees. You get your medicals free, you are there and your medication is brought to you. You even electricity, you are billed at a lower tariff. Government helps you to pay whatever you need to pay. We don't have it here. And so we are saying, under normal circumstances, people should help the elderly. You know, if the elderly do not have these investments, definitely there will be a burden on the society. Either at the home, the village community, or the whole nation even saying, we must make this provision for our elderly people because they cannot sustain themselves. Now the elderly ones has provided for themselves so that that burden is not pushed onto the government. So the elderly in the society are also having a burden that they are already sharing.
How do you respond to, I mean, that criticism that you let your group down? You were leading your other pensioners, when of course the technical committee was formed by the finance ministry to negotiate the terms. The finance minister says you did a good job. Your colleagues believe, well, you didn't do a good job. After all, we're looking for an exemption.
Well, the finance minister saying a good job is not saying we sat down to negotiate.
That never happened?
No. The good job he's saying is the advocacy I started. I started all these things when I realized that it is not good to put pensioners into this program. Then others also came out that, well, we too, we don't have to be in. So if he's talking about a good job I have done, it is that
I'm interested
starting
in the
the whole process.
Okay, I get that part, but I'm interested in the workings of the technical committee, because when you went into that negotiation room, you are saying it's not actually negotiation,
it's not negotiation
that transpired. Give us a sense of what really went on, because there's a divided front now. With the individual bondholders sharing their own concerns, Lawyer Martin People telling his side of the story on what the finance minister may have told you. And you are also telling us and revealing to us for the very first time that it wasn't really about negotiations.
No, if I tell you about this, I wasn't even there when they established I got a call from Martin that I've been asked to attend that technical committee meeting. So I said, well, let me go and see what is happening.
Right.
So when I went, actually, I realized that it was supposed to be 2 members from the individual bondholders and 2 members from but nevertheless, I said, let me sit in. That's why I describe myself as an observer. And at that technical committee, it wasn't for negotiation. What I saw was just going through budgets and saying, what can we do to save money so that these individuals can be exempted.
Oh, really? So it was just...
There was no negotiation there.
So what was happening was for all parties to explore alternatives.
That was what the minister gave them,
right.
the assignment.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
That was the assignment. I mean, out of the engagements, repetitive engagements, did you arrive at any concrete alternative? I mean, different from what the finance minister is saying today?
No, let me explain. Right. What the technical committee was doing, I think they were saying that government could exempt all the individuals without affecting whatever GDP, debt to GDP ratio that you are targeting. So I think the government said, well, go and sit down with my technical committee and see that if we exempted all individuals, would we be able to achieve this target? I think that was if you read the terms of revenue, that was it. But the committee, they came out with, if you cut this, we will save this. If you cut that, you save this. Meaning that if you did all this, there will be enough savings to take care of the exemption that you are supposed to grant to the individuals. So it wasn't that, let's go and see how we can solve A, B, C problem.
Or possibly look at exemptions.
Exemptions
was never on the table.
As far as the first day that I was there, and I stayed up to some time and I have to leave them. I told them that, well, that's part of their old age. I need to get home, take some meal and take some medicines, so I have to leave them. And they continue deep into the night. But the next day when this came out, I realized that they have set out, we can save here, we can save here, we can save here. So that is all that they did.
Do you have knowledge on whether or not the finance minister himself ever appeared at any of those seatings?
For the technical?
Yes.
No. The first day, the second day I wasn't there. The second day they just went to finalize the report. The first day that I was there, it was the 2 people he has asked to. And I don't think...
I'm asking the question because the individual bondholders, just days to the second deadline expiration, came out to tell us boldly that the finance minister assured a total exemption to individual bondholders. It was out there. The finance minister did not categorically deny, but then said, well, individual bondholders remain invited. That was his description of the situation.
Yeah, I was there.
What do you know about? Okay, right.
I was at a meeting.
In that story.
The meeting was a Friday. I was returning from Peduasi after visiting the former president, Kufuor.
John Ajay Kufuor.
So on my way, I had a call that they were meeting and they wanted me to be present. I passed through the Jubilee House because we wanted to also set up a meeting with the chief of staff. Right. So I got there And I think I got there just about the time they wanted to start the meeting. At the meeting, what the minister kept saying was that this is a voluntary exercise, and that if you decide to opt out, the government must pay you your maturity, your coupon, and your maturity. That's all. That is all that the minister said.
These were the words of the finance minister.
That you continue to pay. If you opt out, the government will continue to pay your coupon. He said that.
Even if you opt out?
If you opt out, the government will continue
What did that mean to you? Did that mean exemption to you?
No, that's not an exemption.
Yeah, so that's what,
you see,
that's what I'm interested in.
When I tried to explain this several times, that exemption, from where I'm coming from as a securities market and a capital market person, you owe some people you want to pay, you think you cannot pay. Once you exempt me, you have told me, as for these ones, I can handle. As for these ones, I can handle. The ones I can handle are the ones I am restructuring. So he takes you out. That as for these ones, I am taking you out of the
because
pool.
I can clear that.
Because I can clear them. You are exempted. Those who I say I cannot, I may have challenges. That is why I was restructuring. If you don't take the restructuring, I've already told you that I may have some challenges meeting this. That is why I want to restructure it. So if you go there, you are part of it, and you decide not to take part, you already know that this is part of the debt that I'm saying I may have challenges paying. That is why I want to.
So this is where your fear is arising.
Yes.
From. The fact that the finance minister has not put pen to paper to say, exempted. Well, if it comes to pensioners, you are
exempted.
Totally exempt.
And so I tell people, this is the difference between the two. But if is that technical, and you should understand. But if ordinary, you say, oh, once he says I can opt out, and if I opt out, I'll be paid as and when, so I've been exempted. No, we will not take it as exemption. Ordinary, if you think that amounts to exemption, yes, that's your own problem. But exemption is that I'm saying for these debts, I don't have a problem handling them.
Okay, the reality is staring you in the face. We need to go, but I need to put that question to you. The reality is staring you in the face. The finance minister says, when an economic crisis, what's your response?
Yeah, I always say that let's come down to even local environment. The community needs to put up, let's say, sorry to say, a plate of convenience. We lack that. So we must all go dig the trench and have, what we call a place of convenience at the village.
Right.
Where we are going, we do gong. Today we are going to communal labor to do this. Everyone. Do you see the old ladies and old men digging some? They have done their part. They have finished. Ghana is like if it was a vehicle, your own vehicle. If you got stuck in a mud, you call old men to come and push you. Why don't you call old men?
Old men don't push cars?
Can they push?
You don't have the strength to.
We don't have the strength to. So they say under every law there is an exemption. Anything that you do, some people, because of their peculiar nature, you exempt them. Even in funeral contribution, in our societies, and that's why I always say that the native wisdom is there. In our societies, it gets to a point, they don't let you contribute toward funeral donation. They cancel your name from the books. At some age, you don't pay in Sawa. Why? There's a wisdom that you have done you have finished your course.
Okay, Doc, we need to go, but in 30 seconds, what will be the next line of action? What are we likely to see?
Well, we have said that, we told the minister that we are going to come there until we get the exemption. So tomorrow we are going, it's just 1 hour. The people are able to, today I was happy that at least they were able to stand. the 1 hour. So,
right. So tomorrow you're there?
We'll go. We decided to meet this evening and look at it, whether people felt the 1 hour was too much.
That you should reduce it.
Yes.
But are you also putting or keeping your eyes on the legal aspect? The expiration date is approaching.
Yes.
You may want to
opt for
the legal aspect.
We don't want to go into the legal aspect, because otherwise, today, some people's bonds are supposed to mature today. Mm-hmm. And if you are not going under the program, then you should be paid today.
They've not been paid?
Yes. So if you are not going under the program, you should be paid today. And if you are not paid, then you must go to court. But you say, why do we want to push people to this hot business? Let us just exempt, especially the elderly, and let's have some peace.
Okay, Dr. Anani Entry, unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. I'm sure that we'll interact from tomorrow onwards, but I'm grateful. Let's move on now. Let's talk about the Accra-Tema motorway constructed with the intention of improving transportation in Ghana and connecting it to neighboring West African countries. However, it has become a death trap due to potholes and non-functioning street lights, making travel a difficulty and a dangerous experience for thousands who use that road daily. Of course, we are bringing you a report capturing the situation on that stretch, captured by my colleague Michael Ashalo.
The Accra-Tema stretch of the N1 highway, also known as the Accra-Tema motorway, is a crucial link for Ghana and the West African sub-region. The road connects Ghana to other countries such as Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso and the Ivory Coast, and is a major route for Ghana's exports to the sub-region. However, this stretch of the N1 highway is becoming increasingly dangerous due to poor road maintenance. Not riddled with gaping potholes, and drivers are fed up.
More than this. The trap is too much. You have to really come and construct the road. It's a death trap.
Right.
Because look at it. You can't call this. You can't call this potholes. So you can't call these potholes. And we pay a tax, so they have to come and resolve it for us.
The motorway is notoriously known for some of the heart-wrenching accidents in the country, and the road is getting more dangerous by the day.
My name is Noah Tekpe. The road is very, very bad. We are suffering in this road because they are not doing the maintenance. I'm passing here every day. The potholes and the things is very bad. So we are begging the president so that they fix the road for we. We are suffering in this motorway.
The speed limit on the motorway is 100 kilometers per hour. With the potholes, drivers are forced to slow down to avoid destroying their vehicles. In the process, they create congestion on the road.
Charlie, the traffic is too much on the motorway. Right, yeah. No, there's a lot of potholes on the way, so you have to do something about it.
These potholes are not only an inconvenience for drivers, but for passengers as well.
Sabi, I can't wait so na apem for faso, ayare for faso, ministers in MPs in faso.
Nearly everyone uses the road, including those going to health facilities, pregnant women and workers.
So, now you send a motor from here to Accra, so bad. I can't yakura, your first one, yenya waste problem.
The road is terrible. I sometimes have waist pains. It's either I'm in a long traffic or jumping into potholes, and no one seems to care. It should be fixed.
But at the end of the day, you won't benefit the also.
At night, the motorway is plunged into total darkness. On our drive up and down the entire stretch of the motorway, we observe that but for a few areas, the entire motorway is without light, even though there are street lights along the stretch. More than half of all the street lights are not functional. Some are without their cables, whereas others are without bulbs. Drivers will not see the danger lurking in the corner until it's too late. Since 2009, there have been more than 10 promises to rehabilitate or expand the motorway. From Amidu Amin Sulemana,
we have to do an engineering studies on the road and see possibly what it will cost. And the public-private partnership, there are a lot of things studies that you must do.
To former roads minister Joe Gidisu, and even former President John Dramani Mahama.
If we achieve a huge expansion of Tema Port and we have a constraint of the roads leading to the port, then we would virtually have done nothing. And so the combination of the road to the expansion of the port is something that I appreciate very much.
The MPP government promised to expand the road to 10 lanes.
Mr. Speaker, under the Ministry of Roads and Highways Public-Private Partnership Program for Road Infrastructure, the design, build, finance, operate and maintain Accra-Tema Motorway and Extension PPP project 27.7 kilometers is at the procurement stage. Site work are expected to commence in September 2022.
Kwesi Amwakwata, under the Akufo-Addo-led government, said the reconstruction was going to start in November 2021.
Any moment from now, because we are at the concluding ends of it, and we are going to turn the motorway into 6 lanes. We are going to have almost 4 interchanges on it, and if you add other service lanes and slip roads, some areas will go, up to 10 lanes.
It didn't. He promised the reconstruction will commence August 2022.
Those who do not know what is happening here should keep quiet. Those who do not know what is happening here should keep quiet, okay? And we are starting, this year.
Again, they missed that. Now, it is uncertain when the reconstruction will start. There have been attempts in the past to fix portions of the express highway. Although the motorway was made with concrete slabs, bitumen was used to patch some of the potholes.
And the fixing should be permanent fixing, not something temporary. Okay, it's fixed today, the next time they develop another potholes again.
Sadly, these temporary fixes have only worsened the problem. The bitumen patches are now looking like corrugated sheets because of pressure from the vehicles and the heat from the blazing sun. And vehicles can't help but wiggle. The lack of proper maintenance on the Accra-Tema Motorway is a major concern for both commercial and personal vehicle users. The once pride and joy of the country has now become a road of shame. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
I need to point out that we've been talking about this for quite some time now, but let's speak some more about it. Henry Asumeni, Senior Manager, Planning and Programs Directorate Officer at the National Road Safety Authority. Thank you, sir, for your time. Also joining us is Samuel Amoah, his spokesperson for the Ghana Private Road Transport Union. Mr. Asumeni, I first of all want to find out if there's any document talking about the assessment of safety on that piece of stretch that most persons commuting to Accra from Tema and its environs normally use. What's the report on this, the safety status on the Accra-Tema motorway? Kindly unmute for me, sir, so I can hear the point you're making.
Good afternoon.
Yes,
to our viewers.
Now I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, we all know the state of the Tema-Accra motorway, if we can still call it a motorway, because we all know when it comes to road classifications, we know what a motorway is. This has it's no more a motorway. It is just a road linking two cities. And the road in the state in which it is not safe. That one has been attested and agreed by everybody. But what we would also tell commuters is that although the road has become is in a bad state, we say safety starts with you. So whenever you are using the road, you use the road in a way that you still keep safe on the roads. Yes, a safety assessment has been done over the years on the motorway, and we see that the motorway keeps on deteriorating. And it is in line with this that the Ministry of Roads and Highways made it a priority for the rehabilitation and actually the redesigning. It's actually a redesigning of the Accra-Tema motorway. And this is something that, as we all heard, the minister has been talking about. Yes, he promised it would commence in 2022, but sometimes there are some procedural ways that has to go through before commencement of the actual construction. And I must say that, yes, the Ministry of Roads and Highways has the motorway as one of its one of its main projects that is going to undertake.
And just to get a bit of clarity on the point you're making, are you then saying that you're possibly declassifying, if that's how I should use the word, or degrading? No, degrading the road network to something aside a motorway, as you're terming it to be.
What I said was that if you look at the state in which the road is now, it's not something that by definition it should be called a motorway. But the Ministry of Roads and Highways has one of its priority projects to redesign and reconstruct the Accra-Tema motorway. And the point I was trying to make was, if you look at the road, you recognize that the redesigning of the from the Tema interchange to Aflau through the Pram, that one has started, and that is all part of the redesign and reconstruction of the Accra-Tema through that motorway.
Right.
So yes, we know the bad state in which the road is. And we know that this is a road that we have a lot of commuters from two major cities, Accra and Tema. And as I said, it's one of the priority areas of the Ministry of Roads and Highways. And it is something that we would see very soon, the beginning of the construction.
Okay, hold on.
Whilst we wait for the construction, I would urge commuters to be safe on the roads. Please, as we use the road, let us not speed above 100. when you look at the road, you shouldn't be speeding up to about 70 kilometers per hour. So I would urge commuters to be extra careful when they are using the road so that they are not involved in any crashes.
Okay, and that's precisely why I want to bring in Samuel Amwa. Just hold on for us, Henry Asomani. Because they are commercial drivers. You mostly ply these routes, and I'm sure that your members have been sending you complaints about the poor state of the road network. But you also have a responsibility, isn't it, to be responsible while driving on that stretch. So what's the take of GPRTU on this, on the nature or status of the Accra-Tema motorway?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kofi. Let me just use this opportunity to say good afternoon to our viewers out there. Yes, the state of the motorway now, I will call it a death trap. Why am I saying that? Way back in late 90s up to early 2000, we all know the state of the motorway. That one can just tell someone, I'm going to Accra, and I can use about 10 minutes or even less just to cross the motorway. But now it's not like that. You know, the problem started and we started complaining. Drivers who ply the motorway always complain about the state of the motorway. Now you see potholes all over. And one thing that is disturbing us is that the motorway itself was being built by a concrete. And now if they want to repair it or if they want to fix it, they use coal tar to fix it. Now the whole thing is turning like a bomb. It's turning like a ramp on the road, of which that is not how it's supposed to be. Now, if you are driving and you are not careful, you could be involved in an accident, and it's disturbing. Now, because of this, you know, you find a lot of traffic congestion on motorway. Formerly, people do describe Nungwa Beach Road to Accra as a place where if you want to travel to Accra and use that road, you know, you won't get to your destination early and all that. Now, but now, that road is even safer and even quicker than to use the motorway. The state of the motorway, every driver that plies the motorway, both, you know, private drivers and commercial drivers, they are all complaining bitterly because of the state of the motorway. You know, when I was just, you know, listening to the Honorable Minister, you know, saying something, I don't know if I'm quoting him wrong. He was saying that those that don't know what is happening to should just keep quiet.
Samuel? Samuel, we've lost you on that point.
If we don't know what is happening, we see what is happening. Since we seem to wait at your team, hello?
Yes, Samuel, if you could just take that point for us again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Samuel.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, and what I was saying is that we are saying what we are seeing, okay? The state is bad. The thing is disturbing us. Meanwhile, we have been paying, you know, taxes that has to be used, you know, to fix our roads. All that we need is to see the motorway being fixed. Myself, you know, I do use the motorway maybe 3 times or 4 times in a week. Because I live in Tema and I do go to Accra. And using the motorway now is very, very bad. You find a whole lot of potholes all over the place. If you allow me, let's come to the issue of street light. The street light. Engineer who fixed that, who constructed that road.
Okay. We seem to be having a challenge with the connection to Samuel Amwa. I'm sure that hopefully you'll be back just to complete that point. But for you, Henry, the way forward and what motorists should be on the lookout for. Obviously, your remits don't go into the aspect of construction. But if we are to indeed do a new design and to construct, how soon will the Road Safety Authority recommend?
Okay, and thank you very much. As I said, it is one of the priority projects that the Ministry of Roads and Highways is leading. And as you can see, as I indicated, the Thorn side has begun construction, and very soon we are going to see the construction of on the Tema Motorway. The redesigning would make the motorway into about a 6-lane road, which would enter into the Tema interchange. If you realize, as you enter Tema interchange, the road expands. And so that is that expansion that will come into the motorway, into the Accra interchange. But as I said, I would want to caution commuters to be patient when they are using the road, because the road, as it is in this state now, cannot be used like how it was before. So when I ask that we use the road with caution. Then also, when we come to the even street lights and then road furniture, yes, we should also try to be our brother's keeper. Most of the times, when the road engineers put up this infrastructure, you find people stealing them deep in the night when there's no one around. So I would also urge people that these facilities are there for our safety. It is there for all of us. And so if you find somebody doing something untoward towards a road infrastructure, please try and report the person so that action can be taken. Because these street lights were fixed. I know about 2-3 years ago, there was an advocacy for street lights on the Tema Motorway, and these were fixed. But when they were lighted, it didn't even take up to a month for us to see these some of the wires and then the bulbs being taken off by thieves. So let us also try and be a brother's keeper and look out for these things. But as I said, I urge us all that as we commute to the road, we should be very careful on the roads.
And this is about the third time you're repeating the point. Are you saying that because of the statistics that you have, is it the case that there's an increase in road crashes on that network?
I'm saying that because this road has been described as a death trap by most commuters. And I use the road myself, and I know the things that they are talking about, the things that you can see on the road. I use it sometimes late in the night, and I see how dark it is. But as I said, safety starts with you. You should be the first person to ensure your safety. I am not saying that because you should ensure your safety, then it means that the people who have been engaged to ensure that our roads are safe should go to sleep. We are also advocating for the roads sector to also expedite action on the redesigning and construction of the motorway, so that we, those who commute and use the road, would have a safer facility to use. But before that is done, we should make sure that we use the road in such a way that it would not bring harm to us. So that is what I want to say.
Henry Asumene, I'm grateful for your time here on The Pulse. Let me wrap up with you, Samuel Amwa. How about issuing a notice to your members? To be cautious now, of course, that we know that it will take a little longer for the redesign and reconstruction to take place. What are you going to do as GPRTU? Perhaps educating your members on safety?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what we are trying to do and what we have been doing is to be talking to our drivers. Since we find out these situations, drivers that do fly the Accra Tema Motorway, we do go to those stations. We have a team that normally go around, to educate the drivers, to remind them or to caution them as to how they will apply on the motorway, and it will not cause or it will not create any accident. So we have been doing that, and now drivers who normally goes to about 100 kilometers per hour and all that, they are no more doing that, because they know you can't even go, maintain that speed while using the motorway. So we are doing that. We have been educating the drivers about that situation, that since the road is not being fixed, they have to try as hard as they can, because if you are not careful, you will be involved in an accident and lives will be taken. So we have been educating them.
Well, we have to leave it here for now. I'm grateful Henry Asomene and Samuel Amwa for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, still to come here on The Pulse, Upper East Regional Minister is calling for peace as he demands an immediate halt in the firing of arms in the Bawku municipality. We'll bring you details of his meeting earlier today with the Regional Security Council and some traditional rulers.
Please, 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 let all the guns in Bawku be silent.
I said to the Upper East region now, where the regional minister, Stephen Yakubu, is demanding a halt in the firing of arms as the Regional Security Council meets with traditional authorities in the Bawku municipality to resolve the recent disturbances that led to the death of at least 9 people. Military personnel deployed to the area accused of carrying out these murders have since described the incident as an operation geared at neutralizing the threats posed by armed men. Briefing the traditional authorities in Bawku, the regional minister, Stephen Yakubu, says Bawku must work towards peace despite their differences.
When this conflict started, or 1.5 years ago, we have been trying our best to make sure that this conflict is ceased and for Bawku to come back to its normal activities. We all know banks have closed, schools have closed, hospitals have closed. Commercial activity is completely almost zero. People are scared. These are the facts of Bawku. These are the realities of Bawku. What are we doing? My fathers, my brothers, my mothers. What are we doing? Please, 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 let all the guns in Bawku be silent. Let us put Bawku back to the map of Ghana. Let us seek peace. That is the only way, peace, whatever it is. Let us have peace. In conflict situations, it is usually women and children who suffer the most. And we all know over the years that fighting never solves any problem. It rather draws us back. It rather increases our poverty levels.
Well, Albert Sorry is our Upper East regional correspondent. He's joining us now with more. Albert, first of all, tell us where you are and what you're gathering about that meeting, which has already ended. What's been the fallout?
Yes, so the meeting is just, the minister is wrapping up the tour today, just at the Bawku Municipal. Hello?
I'm with you, Albert.
Yes, so the minister is wrapping up the tour today. We are just currently at the Bawku Municipal Assembly, where he's gone into a meeting with the RECSEC and the Municipal Security Council as well. But he's been meeting both the Kusasis and the Mamprusis at their various areas, where he's been engaging with them, talking about how the conflict is affecting the town. At both areas, the people were not happy with the regional minister, mainly because he's the head of the Regional Security Council. So their frustrations were basically directed at the leadership, both the political leadership and the security as well, because they feel that the nature of things that are happening in Bawku are such that the security should be on top of the issues and be able to nip some of them in the bud. Now, you get the sense that the people feel that the Regional Security Council is basically scratching the surface when it comes to the real issues that are threatening the peace and security of the township. And for that reason, they both expressed their frustration. You get the sense that they were even angry at the regional minister because they feel that the real issues are there, but the RESEC is not really tackling the issues and is rather engaging in these kinds of meetings, which they feel will not really yield the kind of results that the Bawku Township needs.
The Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa has also been addressing the gathering, and we know that other officials are also present. What more have they been saying?
Right, so mainly is the regional minister who has been doing the talking as far as these meetings are concerned. Apart from him, the rest of the people that are on the tour with him are talking about the regional police commander and both the commanders for the customs as well as the Ghana Fire Service and even the NIB as well. They didn't really speak much. They are just on the tour, accompanying the minister and taking notes, doing data gathering, etc. So it's been mainly the minister who has been speaking and responding to the issues that have been raised so far by the people of Bawku. And he's also assured them as he wraps up his meeting less than an hour ago with the Mampusi side of Bawku. He's been assuring them that RESEC is taking all their views on board and they are going to do everything within their power to try and bring lasting peace to Bawku.
Well, thanks, Albert. Sorry. Monitoring developments in the Upper East for us. I want to bring in Dr. Adam Bona, security analyst, on this. Doc, so that tour is rounding off in the Upper East region. Are you delighted about the assurances from the Regional Security Council?
It's difficult. Good afternoon. It's difficult to be delighted by the assurances by the Regional Security Council. We've seen this too many times. I was part of the delegation that was in Bawku somewhere last year. We met, both sides. We met the youths on both sides, and we sort of brokered a certain, temporary peace. But it didn't last too long. Afterwards, they went back to, the same shoot and hide. Hit and run. The killings have continued. It is some effort put in there, but I think that the country can do better than this. I'm actually hearing, I would have wished that you would ask your reporter to confirm or to deny if he was there, but I'm hearing while the meeting was taking place, there were gunshots. And so if that is true, then it would go to show what I'm talking about. As far as I'm concerned, no effort should be rubbish. But I think we need to, the state would have to do a lot more than it is doing at the moment with regards to confronting the evil that has infested Bawku. It needs to be dealt with head on.
The sector minister there, or the regional minister there, I should say, asking that all parties come together. He's trying to deploy the traditional leadership in the community to try and act. Of course, that's the fastest way of getting results, no?
Well, it should be the fastest way, but I think the division, you can see that the two feuding parties, what seems to be dividing them, for me, that is what we need to look at. It's the usual chieftaincy that must be looked at, if you ask me. And so you are aware that they pulled out of the Peace Council dialogue, you know, for, what do you call it, what's the name, for Bawku. And so as far as I'm concerned, yes, dialogue is very important, but how do we dialogue when, you know, we are not able to bring them to a round table to talk? How do we dialogue? You know that every now and then you hear killings taking place there, and as we speak, how do we dialogue if over the period there's been about 100 people killed, and we don't know how these people died, you know, homes have been burnt. And so I think that I would say the dialogue is important, but let's look at it from the point of view of putting in an inquiry. Let's know the last 2 years, the last 1 year, those who have died, how did they die? Because then, how do you dialogue with me? If you come into my house and you kill my relations, and the next day you come in and tell me to come and sit at the round table when I'm staring at the guy who killed my relations and you haven't arrested him and prosecuted him. So there are, you know, the issue of Bawku is multifaceted. You have to put your ears on the ground and then, you know, speak to those who are there, maybe pay, you know, a visit there. Then you would understand that, yes, going there to have a conversation with them is important, but I think we can do better than that. We can simply do better than that.
Right, indeed we can do better, but not much has been heard from the military ever since the shooting incident. Do you suspect that there might be a cover-up on the true, I mean, cause of the shots that were fired, and for which we should have an independent audit or investigations into the matter?
Well, I think that it is important to institute some inquiry into the killings in Bawku. It is alleged that the military is part of the killing, has been part of the killing. The military has countered that argument. Their counter argument is that some people wearing military uniforms who are not military officers in the area have infiltrated the ranks of the Mamprosis and the Kusasis, and, you know, killing everybody they get on site. Prafres, Moses, you know, Bimuabas, killing people randomly. And so we need to know, without instituting this probe, it becomes, you know, something that, if you ask me, that will not go anywhere, because then people are aggrieved, people are angry. How do you start a dialogue without investigating what has taken place? Both sides have complained. The Kusasis, the Mamprosis, have complained of losing relations, very close relations. The town, some sections of the towns are becoming very empty. Frafres have lost relations. Recently, some, what's the name? Dogombes were arrested, you know, call them, Moses have been killed, and, you know, Mamprosis, Kusasis. And so my point is that how do you go and dialogue when you are not ready to know the truth? The truth is important. Once you know the truth, after the inquiry, you put the cards on the table. You did this, you did that, that person did this. If we have state security agencies, whether they've been infiltrated or they themselves who have committed some of these atrocities, let's get them punished. And I would say that even the probe, let's just not limit it to the recent killing, because the Mamprosis, both sides, Mamprosis and Kusasis, have complained of killings. And so if you go in there and you go to dialogue, I'm telling you that it won't take more than a month or two. The killings will continue unabated. So for me, I think, let's have a plan. What we don't have in dealing with Bawku is a plan. We do not have a roadmap with regards to, okay, we are going to spend the next 1 year, every week or every month. This is what we are going to do incrementally. Obviously, it is not everybody who will be ready to be brought onto the table. Right. But let's do that incrementally. We don't have a plan. If you ask me, what is the plan in ensuring that peace returns to Bawku, I'm not aware of any documented plan. It is the usual knee-jerk approach, where killings take place, delegation go in there, sit people down, don't stop killing one another. After a month, you don't see it. 2 months, yes, they go back to the killing again. But there hasn't been any plan, if you ask me. to confront the ills of Bawku. And until such a time that there is a roadmap in dealing with the canker, the conflict that has engulfed Bawku. Once upon a time, a thriving town has become a ghost town, a pale shadow of itself. And we haven't heard anything. The military is not talking directly to the issues. Obviously, I'm sure they are preparing and trying to come out with a report. But on the part of the central government, I would want to see the central government also put in a word. Let's know what is going on. Obviously, the regional minister who is head of RECSEC in the region would be representing the state. But I think that Bawku has gone beyond RECSEC in the Upper East. The issue of Bawku goes beyond, the RECSEC of Upper East lacks capacity when it comes to dealing with the ills of Bawku. So I think that we need central government from Jubilee House in dealing with the issue of Bawku. But if you leave it in the hands of RECSEC, MUSEC, and the rest, I'm telling you that call me back next year on the 6th of February, and this issue would have been, worse than we are talking about today. There is no roadmap.
That's not what we're praying for, but certainly I hope that the authorities will take into consideration your call. Dr. Adam Bona, thank you for joining us. Well, this afternoon, the minority in Parliament is alleging that up to 60 infrastructural projects are set to be suspended or cancelled by Ghana's quest to get an IMF program. Government has so far not announced any specific programs or projects which will be affected by the deal, despite hoping that a deal could be reached by the end of March this year. Minority Chief Whip Gavin Kwame Abuja says his side aware of some meetings held at high levels of government to cancel or suspend up to 60 projects. He says there has been no transparency around this decision making.
The government have decided belatedly to go into IMF. But the arrogance of Dr. Bawumia and Ken Ofori-Atta and their opaque way of doing things is such that nobody knows exactly what they are taking to the negotiation. As we speak, we have a situation where Dr. Bawumia and Ken Ofori-Atta are the only ones probably who knows what they are negotiating. All they want is to decide that Ghanaians should pay a certain amount of money from their private sources to save them, which is the issue about the debt restructuring, which people are pushing against heavily. But there are other significant parts of the negotiation that are not known to Ghanaians, which are creating big anxiety, not only in Ghana, but across the globe. As we sit here, I'm aware that series of meetings have taken place with a close group of people in NPP, close to President Akufo-Addo, where allegedly about 60 projects and programs are going to be either suspended or cancelled. These programs include projects that you and I know about, maybe Obechebi, La General Hospital, Shama, the road between Tamamoto Roundabout and Akosombo Bridge, Adomi Bridge, and many other projects across the country. You'll be surprised that this government actually paid some of the developers 15 to 20% mobilizations. These are foreign companies. They've taken the mobilization, are sitting in their offices drinking tea because government is unable to tell them whether to go ahead because Ken basically said, suspend all these things. So we are probably losing value because they've taken the money in terms of mobilization. They have set up camp, but they're in the office.
To Kwame Gavins Abuja, up to 3 million jobs could be lost in the construction value chain if government goes ahead with this plan. He has also been indicating that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia do not have the requisite knowledge to be taking such decisions.
And you cannot blame them. This is of no value to the country. And we are saying, what are the principles underlining the selection of the projects NPP want to cancel, suspend, or go ahead? Don't we all have to have an understanding to this? I think we should. And that this lack of understanding creates big anxiety. There are financiers, developers, contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and even ordinary workers working with these entities who are currently unsure whether they are going to lose their job permanently because some of them have started laying off people. I project that this could lead to job losses up to 3 million people in the value chain because when there are contractors in this country whose workforce is about 5,000, one person. So imagine 5,000 people spread out to They are a family a size of about 4. The broke man is now coming to give you money to pay your rent. This is why the things don't add up. We need clarity in terms of what they want to do under an IMF program. Under the NDC, because we went to Senchi, the average Ghanaian knew what we were going to negotiate at IMF and actually set up a body, which is not government, to monitor how government was going to implement whatever decision the IMF was going to agree with Ghana.
Well, National Director of Rocha Ghana, Dr. Seth Apia Kubi, says allowing any form of mining in the Etiwa forest will have dire consequences for water supply in the country. Touching on similar form of mining at Wasa in the Western North region, Dr. Apia Kubi indicated that the Awa River has been rendered useless as residents are no longer able to drink from it. This was his testimony at an Accra High Court in a case filed by the environmental non-governmental organization and 10 others seeking to stop government from undertaking bauxite mining in the Etiwa Forest Reserve. Court correspondent Joseph Akable was there in our reports.
Dr. Apia Kubi was the first witness to testify in the case. He told the court that already some parts of the forest had been destroyed by the exploratory mining that had been taking place. He described this mining as unlawful, pointing out that the required environmental assessment report that was supposed to be issued before such mining could take place had not been compiled. The court asked, through the state attorney, questions were raised about whether he had evidence to back this claim of unlawful mining. He did indicate to the court that he had in his possession documents he could provide to back the claim. The court did give him the opportunity, despite the opposition from the state attorney, to make those documents available. Afterwards, the state attorney suggested to Dr. Apia Kubi that there was mining that was taking place in various forests in the country and outside the country in a sustainable manner. A reference was made to Awasu here in Ghana in the Western North region. But Dr. Apia Kubi argued that the mining that was taking place in the Awasu area had actually destroyed the Awa River and rendered it useless, as communities around could no longer drink from the river. He told the court that it therefore cannot be true that mining can be undertaken in a sustainable manner in the Etiwa forest. The case is back in court on 7 February 2023 with the expectation that cross-examination of Dr. Apia Kubi will continue, but he will also be required to make available to the court the evidence showing that the mining that took place by way of the exploration in the Etiwa forest was contrary to law. For JoyNews on the Law Court Complex, my name is Joseph Akable.
Well, now stakeholders in the agri sector have repeated calls on the government to increase investments to boost local rice production in the country. They want government to spend and actually speed up measures to regulate, if not completely ban, the importation of foreign rice, a practice that they say is negatively affecting domestic production and consumption. Correspondent Ilyasu Tanko has been interacting with stakeholders on the sidelines of the launch of the National Rice Fair at Wale Wale in the northern region.
Maiden edition of the National Rice Fair was held in the West Mamprese municipal capital Wale Wale in the northeast region, organized under the auspices of the Tamana Rice Company Limited and IDH. The Rice Fair brought together stakeholders in the rice production and supply value chain, but also several other distinguished personalities, including the Overlord of Mampurugu, representatives of the Yana, and political and religious figures, among others. The purpose of the fair was to explore means of building sustainable partnerships to enhance local rice production and consumption in the face of multiplying challenges confronting the various actors in rice production in the country. In his address as a special guest, the paramount chief of Nanton, Na Nantogma Bawa, speaking on behalf of the Yana, called on the government to regulate the importation of rice into the country.
To enhance local rice production and consumption, it is important for government to tactically regulate the importation of rice. Without that, there is no way the local subsector will see any growth. And unemployment, especially among the youth, will continue to increase. For how on earth can the country spend huge sums of foreign exchange to import rice, when 1/3 of such money can turn Ghana into a rice exporting company? It is therefore imperative for stakeholders in the food and agriculture sector ensure increased and sustained domestic production of good quality rice for food security.
Local rice producers in the north are mainly supported by non-governmental organizations and individuals through special schemes and partnerships. At the fair, the GIZ program's leader, Madam Rita Windiga, bemoaned the low investment in the rice sector, but stated, however, that her organization will continue to support rice production in Ghana.
I wish to urge the Ghana government, all authorities, His Majesties, to continuously support the productive farming and processing ventures. From the German Development Corporation, GIZ, through its funding agency, German government, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, European Union, we remain committed to partner all actors in the rice sector.
On their part, the IDH said with the right investment, Ghana could become a rice production hub in Africa.
The rice value chains in Ghana, when supported by all, will lead to increase in commercialization and improve operation to produce high-quality rice that are competitive globally. And that is why IDH partners are committed to this sector through our African Food Transformation Coalition that we are implementing at IDH. Now, Chairman, we see today as the beginning of the Value Chain Actors Coalition towards sustainable development of the rice sector and consumption in Ghana. As we gather here today, this is a confirmation of our solidarity towards the sector.
Regional Minister Idana Zakari, in his address, among others, said the Northeast region remains a conducive destination for investors of all kinds, including large-scale rice farmers.
On behalf of the chiefs and people, I want to assure all interested investors of our readiness to make land available with adequate guarantees for rice farming as well as other crops. The region has 1.96 million hectares of arable land, out of which only 547,760 hectares is cultivated, representing just about 27%. The potential to invest is still huge. The region is also blessed with rivers that flow all year round and would therefore supply water for farmers who may want to venture into dry season cultivation of rice.
Rice farmers in the region in the last 4 years have incurred huge losses as a result of several challenges, including the annual invasion of bears and flooding from the spillage of the Bagre Dam. In most of these cases, the farmers are yet to receive any cushioning from the government. The Chief Executive Officer of the Tamana Rice Processing Company, Alhaji Ibrahim Shaibu, said the government's support for the rice sector in the region has waned significantly in recent years.
As we speak, our company is eventually collapsed because of Ghana buffers. Because they will buy your rice and it will take so many years for them to do.
For Joy News, Ilyasu Tanko reporting from Wale Wale.
The National Road Safety Authority is working with stakeholders to regularize the activities of shuttles for private schools. The Director for Regulations, Inspections and Compliance at the authority, Kwame Kodia Tuahini, says the objective is to limit road crashes involving school children. He was speaking to the media during a day's workshop with the road safety officers from Ashanti and Bono regions.
Last year, 4 pupils lost their lives in a road accident involving their school buses in the Ahafo region. Other injuries sustained. Similar incidents happened in Kumasi. In one instance, 14 pupils were hospitalized. To avoid such accidents, the National Road Safety Authority is scaling up activities involving shuttle services to minimize the associated risks. The Director for Regulations, Inspection and Compliance at the authority, Kwame Kodia Etuahene, says collaboration with the National School Inspectorate Authority will ensure schools that run bus services are properly regularized by the National Road Safety Authority.
This National Schools Inspectorate Authority is an agency under the Ministry of Education. They issue licenses to private schools. So we are working very closely with them to ensure that as part of their licensing regime, schools that run these bus services are properly regularized by us. And by regularization, we mean that the vehicle must be in good condition, the driver must be trained. It doesn't matter whether you are licensed or not. You see, the bit about dealing with kids is a different kettle of fish. I mean, the mindset you take to driving adults on the Kumasi Highway may be quite different from dealing with kids in traffic.
To manage the risks associated with the operations of school shuttles, the Road Safety Authority has planned a periodic training for the drivers and their assistants to keep their children safe. Mr. Etuahene says discussions, which started last year, will be scaled up to other regions this year.
I do not want Ashanti to record accidents involving 10 schools before I begin to act. That's why we are trying to be proactive. So last year we started that discussion. We intend to scale up this year. And in Takoradi this month, there will be the first of such trainings for such school bus drivers. We'll scale up across the country.
Meanwhile, the Road Safety Authority has been engaging safety officers at various terminals in the Ashanti, Ahafo and Bono regions to build their capacity.
So if you run GPR to a cooperative and a private vehicle owner brings his vehicle to run under your union, you should be able to exact similar or close to the same control that. And that is the essence. How do you recruit their drivers? How do you train them? How do you maintain your vehicles? How do you conduct pre-departure checks? What sort of practices do you ensure so that the traveling public would have some minimum comfort, convenience when they patronize your services? So this is essentially a sensitization and training workshop.
Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
And now the New Patriotic Party is carrying out further consultations on selecting the ideal time to hold the presidential and parliamentary primaries. Two previous attempts to set that date, modalities and also the venue for the internal elections failed to yield results. All meetings amongst others had the national executives and also the President of the Republic together with his vice and other leading figures of the party present who could not compromise on the proposed dates for the exercise. Whereas some are calling for early Congress, others are also of the view that a delayed one will avoid what is being termed as a faulty leadership structure within the governing party. Let's speak now to Richard Ahiangba, he's Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. Thank you, Richard, for your time here on The Pulse. So, last week it didn't go down well. Of course, there are many who are watching to see what's likely to happen this week. What's happening and what could be that update that you could give to the public on the selection of a date for the presidential and parliamentary primaries for the NPP?
Well, thank you very much. I think that immediately after National Council meeting, before the National Executive Committee meeting and Select Committee meeting, I think the General Secretary made a statement in respect of what the outcome was, in particular about the date for the internal primaries, the presidential and the parliamentary. It wasn't in the nature as has been reported. It wasn't any tense conversation where people were going back and forth. It was just a discussion to see what is ideal. And I should say that the conversation actually started with steering committee on Wednesday, and the position of steering committee was proposed, and it was accepted that there was a need for further consultation to settle on a date that will be amicable for all stakeholders involved. So I think that the party is allowing the processes to work, and I think that in a good time now, a date to be settled on for us to do the internal primaries.
When you say you're allowing the processes to work, what's that?
There's a committee that was charged with to figure out on a date that everybody will agree with. That committee's work is not done, and they've been allowed to continue to engage further to arrive at a date that will be practical for all and acceptable. And I think that even in having this conversation, there's history to guide us in case anybody is anxious about whether or not we have time to conduct these elections. History being a guide under President Kufuor, we had the elections in December of 2007, a year before the presidential and parliamentary elections. So we have that guide. And in 2014, for the 2016 election, we had the primaries in 2014, and for 2012, we had it in 2010. So there is ample guide for us to rest assured that we are within time to do this election.
And that's where the great divide, if you want to call it as such, is emerging within the NPP. With many feeling that an early Congress will help your fortunes in terms of the next elections, which is in 2024?
Well, it's not a question. I mean, it's not a question of what will help or not. There's no crystal ball to look into. The key thing is that if the party is mobilized and there is peace and we're all on the same page, which is what dialogue and consensus would bring, I think that the party is resolute. The MPP is a formidable party. If you look at the history of the 2007 election, as I said, we got behind. Even then, you have several candidates, about 17 candidates. At the end of that interesting primaries, were able to come together, won the first round, but unfortunately did not win the second round. So it tells you that the party itself, in terms of mobilization or organizing, there isn't too much to worry about. We just have to ensure that we're giving fair chance for democracy to work. And I think that that's really the key that we need to look at.
But per the constitution of the NPP, whose ultimate call will this be? I mean, to choose or decide the dates for the election?
Come again.
Per the constitution of the New Patriotic Party, whose ultimate call will this be to determine the date, venue, and modalities for the...
Well, it's National Council. National Council ultimately will have to decide on the matter, but then it will go through the process, starting obviously from steering committee, and the issue will be addressed at National Executive Committee, and ultimately National Council will make that decision. But then, like I said, the process will begin, and it has begun. The committee, National Council actually put that committee in place that is led by our former chairman, Mark Menu. That committee is still working. The only thing which came to light the last time is to try and engender more consensus so we can arrive at the date. And I just told you two streams of possibilities as far as our experience is concerned. We've done it a year before. We've done it 2 years into an election from an opposition.
I get that, but I'm asking the question. I'm just asking the question to demonstrate that indeed at your last meeting, there was no consensus. There are some reports out there even indicating that the president left unhappy after the engagement.
That is absolutely not true. And I'm not sure how these reports are getting out. I was in the room, like I'll tell you, from steering committee, which happened on Wednesday night, Thursday, both National Council and the National Executive Committee. There wasn't any tension in the room. There were fair conversations that were had. In fact, at National Executive Committee, it was the proposal of steering committee to allow for further consultation that was brought up, and it was accepted. And then we moved on from there. So President sat in the meeting, steering committee the night before, the two meetings on the day, National Executive Committee and National Council. We finished the meeting, the president made his statement and closed the meeting. So I don't see where anybody would say the president left unhappy. Absolutely not true.
I'm interested in his statement just to prove the point that he wasn't unhappy. What was the position or perhaps the posture of the president on this? Early Congress or a delayed one?
Well, there isn't any crystallized position on this matter. The situation we have presently is consultation that a committee seized with the power to help the party decide a date is working on it. I don't think that any one person's position is material, because it is going to factor into that decision multiple views, and ultimately those views would be, synthesized and an ideal date to form for the party to move forward.
Richard, you feel it will not be fair to share the position of the president on this? At least it may serve as a guide. This is
I don't think that is material. We're looking for a party position, and that party position has not formed yet. So when you begin to say this or that, in any case, when listening to the discussion, nobody is entrenched in their position. The thing is that let's have consultation. Let's be guided by history. Let's pick the ideal date that everybody will agree with. Okay? In fact, since you are asking to see the president's mind, the word, so let's engage so we can have consensus was the president's particular word. He used the word consensus. He used the word consensus. So you can understand that throughout the process, there is that feeling that we should have a broad-based consultation to ensure that any position will be acceptable to all.
Okay, very briefly as we wrap up, what's your word to the grassroots of the party who are feeding into this report? And of course, it's gone round on many social media platforms. I'm sure that you're even getting some of them yourself about how the selection of the date for the presidential and parliamentary primaries is beginning to degenerate and crack the ranks of the NPP. What would be your message to, the grassroots of the party who are anxious and worried about it?
There's a position in the media that is contrary to the position in the party that I experience. Certainly, there are people who want us to do it early or later, but I'm saying that it's immaterial, really, if you are trying to allow democracy to work. Then, because what I feel cannot be the sum total of what the population feel in the party. So I think that everybody's feeling is their feeling, but what is really going to carry the day would be the consensus that we can build for the party through the committee to realize everybody's view coming together and forming a day for us out of that. I think that the collective wisdom is really what we should be striving for, and I think that we'll get that. And even within time, like I've said, there's history that guides us that we are within time to be able to consider these matters and make a decision that will be in the best interest of the party.
But you're setting we'll get the date by the end of this month, at least.
By all means, the MPP is determined to win the 2024 election. We need a candidate to do that. So certainly we'll come up with a date that will lead us to select our flag bearer and then be able to contest and win the 2024 elections.
Grateful. Richard Ahengba is Director of Communications for the New Patriotic Party. That's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I am Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. More stories for you there to read and explore. That's where we're leaving you. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Please stay.